Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, all non-binary or other people, I wanted to welcome you to another adventure in Astrid's Fiscal Irresponsibility. We will start off by saying I might or might not have been at some orchid auction last night, and I may or may not have purchased 7 new plants. Oh my god. And I may or may not want to show them to you now. So first off, we've got Prosthechea cochleata. As I learned last night, this was called Encyclia cochleata, and I've called it that for a long time, but this flower is not resupinate, meaning its lip is pointing up to the sky instead of hanging down, so it hasn't flipped back over again, it hasn't resupinated. So what that means is that they had to recategorize it as Prosthechea. So this is correctly Prosthechea cochleata, and look what a bloom, what a lovely, lovely flower. And for something better about this plant, which mind you, I received for the low price of $20, is bam! Do you see how big this stinking monster plant is? This is like unreal. It's got at least 20 pseudobulbs, it's got 2 bloom spikes. It is really, really something else. I don't know what I'm going to do with such a giant plant, but I want to mount it on cork bark, get it off of this stupid moss bullshit, and get it mounted on cork bark and have a beautiful display in my room of this amazing near specimen size plant. Like, it's obscene that I got this for like almost 20 bucks. Just let me show you why I hate this. Look at this. This is greenhouse material, not indoor home growing mounting material. But look at how well rooted it is. It is like all up in this. It is huge. It is massive, and it's amazing. Look at all these old growths. I'm in love with this plant. I'm not so in love with the mount. All right, moving on. Let's talk about another plant that I got, which is I hate this stuff, I'm going to vacuum later, the Neofinetia falcata. So this plant I got for maybe $7, $10, something like that. 15 actually, I think. And I just wanted to compare it with this other Neofinetia falcata that I have. Now, so you guys know, Neofinetia falcata orchids are typically priced based on the number of growths they have and the size of the plant. And this would be considered a medium to starting to be larger size plant, but not super mature, not giant by any means. But this is a pretty big plant. This is a small little plant. Guess how much I paid for this? This was 15 bucks. This has 5 stinking leaves and a big giant root, and it's got about nothing else, and it was $15, and I paid like 15 for this, like, my god. And look how many growths it has. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It has 6 growths. It is blooming size. It recently bloomed. Hopefully it will bloom again for me, and it's just in really some nice shape. I'm like super pleased with this, and I'm really excited to have a big one of these. For those of you guys who don't know, some orchid collectors do exclusively Neofinetia falcata. They're really treasured in Japan, and they're old tradition. They've been grown for a long time, so some people are super into these, and these have really cool varieties if you're curious. Let's go to another plant while I put these away. Okay, so next we have just this Cattleya type. This is Laeliocattleya Angel Love Pinkie. And this is going to have really cute pink blooms. I thought it looked a little bit like the Ivanagar apple blossom, so I really liked that about it, and hopefully it'll be fragrant. However, Cattleya growers, people who grow these a lot, what do I do with this old leaf? Like, what do I do? This is so ugly and awful. And what do I do with this old disgusting cane? I have 3 healthy, 4 and a baby healthy bulbs here. I want to cut this off really bad, but I don't know if that's cool. Cattleya growers, let me know. Also, this does not appear to have bloomed. Maybe it's a division from a bigger plant, as it looks like it is cut from a bigger plant if I'm looking at this back growth, but it does not seem to have any old sheaths. Maybe it does. No, that's just dirt from the fern, but it doesn't seem to have bloomed, although these new growths are healthy. So maybe this one will bloom for me this summer, but I'm not sure, and I'm not familiar enough with Cattleyas to say one way or the other. Next up, we have a species orchid. This is Miltonia spectabilis. It is super cool. I was reading on orchidspecies.com a little bit about these, and it said that they like pretty high light, actually. And so, oh my gosh, these scrub jays outside. They said that this orchid likes high light, so if it looks yellow in the bulbs, that actually means it's receiving adequate light. So I guess I'm just going to keep giving it that bright light and see what happens with it. An interesting feature of this orchid is, as a species, it has this interesting growth habit, which is this is an oncidium type that puts up a sheath. Can you see this old sheath? This is awesome. Like, I don't even want to cut it off because it's just so stinking cool looking. And this is already bloomed, so that's a good sign. And we have a new little baby growth right there, so that's exciting. That's Miltonia spectabilis. Okay, next up, we've got Dendrobium Nestor. Now, I think this is a nobile type dendrobium. However, it's not Dendrobium nobile, which I hate. It's Dendrobium Nestor, which I love. I don't know, I haven't ever smelled it before, but these have these big purple flowers. I'll try to put a picture if I can, that cascade down, and they just smell amazing. And I was told they can bloom off of these old canes, which is awesome. And this plant seems to be in pretty good shape. It's got these two green canes are new, so it's got 2 new growths and maybe a little cakey here. And I guess it blooms in spring, something like that. So that's this. I think I'll name it Odo, because in an episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Odo served as Chief O'Brien's Nestor in Cardassian Court of Law. Fun fact. So that's what I'm going to nickname it. And finally, something I'm super excited about. Like, super excited about. Do any of you recognize this plant? Maybe not, because it's not, you know, in bloom. But do any of you? Anything? Well, this is Bulbophyllum Barbie Jairam. This is a species orchid native to West Africa. And this orchid, when they discovered it, was rumored to have been seen as a link between plant and animal, according to what I've been told. I have not verified this in old texts myself, but it was seen that way. And the reason for this is that the blooms, and I'll include a link in the description, when they open, the slightest movement of air causes them to twitch wildly. The lips are just so loose that they just go like kind of like this. They just tremble and do this weird little dance, and it's so bizarre, and I'm really excited to have this, even though I just read it was stinky. So I took this out of its pot last night. It was in a little pot that constricted it to an area like this big, like a little square. So I moved it onto a mount because bulbos, I'm just going to keep all my bulbos on a mount. It's got these wonderful flat weird little pseudobulbs. It's got one somewhat unhealthy new growth that seems to have done something since last night. Interestingly enough, this leaf opened. It wasn't open last night. And it's got one, and somewhere there is another other new growth hanging out, though I am not going to take the time to find it right now. But this is super exciting. I got this for $15. I about died, and I can't even say anything. Like, I'm so excited to have this orchid, and an orchid of this size, and an orchid that is just so beautiful. I really hope I can bloom it. And the guy in my Orchid Society who grows miniatures and bulbophyllums very well said it will do well in this climate. It just needs a really good wet-dry cycle, meaning you put a thin layer of sphagnum moss here, you get it wet, and then you let it dry. You get it really wet, and then you let it dry. I might have even put too much sphagnum moss for this, but for bulbophyllums and for many orchids, the wet-dry cycle is more important than any potting media you choose, any schedule of watering. Focus on how long does this plant want to stay wet and how quickly does it want to dry. And that will give you a better idea of how to pot your plants in your own environment and how to care for your orchids in general. So I really hope this blooms for me. I would basically have a heart attack of excitement. And yeah, I will definitely post 1,000 videos of the blooms if this opens up for me sometime soon. So you guys can look forward to that if I don't kill this, which I probably won't. Knock on wood. Haha. Thanks so much for watching my self-indulgent behaviors, and I hope you guys have a fantastic day. If there's ever an orchid auction near you, go and compete with those old people, because you can get some killer deals like I got and find some really spectacular orchids. All right. Thanks so much for watching. Happy growing. Bye, guys.